Today, I will answer the first CCR question, which is how does your product use or challenge conventions, and how does it represent social groups or issues? My script, The Fractured Mind, both embraces and subverts the conventions of psychological thrillers, twisting them into something far more personal and unsettling. At its core, the story is a chilling exploration of the fragility of the human mind and the thin, often invisible line between thoughts and actions. Traditional thrillers frequently rely on unreliable narrators, paranoia, and a slow descent into madness, and Eamon's journey embodies all of these elements. However, what makes this story unique is how it blurs the boundary between perception and reality, forcing both the character and the audience to question what is truly happening. Eamon initially believes that her diary possesses some dark supernatural power, that by writing her intrusive thoughts she is manifesting real-world consequences. But by the end, she realizes that the horror was never external or supernatural. It was her all along. Instead of relying on a ghostly presence, an outside antagonist, or a mystical curse, the story roots its terror into something far more intimate and terrifying, Eamon's own fractured mind. This shift from external horror to internal horror makes the fear in the fractured mind feel more real and inescapable and deeply personal. I named this movie The Fractured Mind because it reflects Eamon's broken psyche and the gradual shattering of her perception of reality. Her mind is not whole. It is fragmented by trauma, isolation, and suppressed emotions, leading her down a dark and violent path. The title serves as both a metaphor and a warning, showing how unaddressed psychological struggles can manifest in terrifying ways. Beyond functioning as a psychological thriller, The Fractured Mind also delves into complex real-world issues such as bullying, isolation, and mental health struggles. Eamon's unraveling is not spontaneous. It is the result of prolonged emotional distress and accumulation of unresolved pain that finally erupts in devastating ways. From the very beginning, she is subjected to cruelty at the hands of Fatma and Zainab, who constantly belittle and torment her. Their taunts are not overtly violent, but their effects are deeply damaging. The film highlights how bullying doesn't always take the form of physical aggression. Sometimes words, exclusion, and humiliation are enough to erode someone's sense of self. Eamon's pain is further compounded by her loneliness. She is a quiet, studious girl, and while she has a friend in Hamna, even that relationship is not enough to pull her out of the depths of her mind. She feels unseen and unheard, a feeling that builds up over time until it becomes unbearable. Her emotions, unacknowledged and unaddressed, begin to fester like an open wound. The story reflects the harsh reality that many individuals struggling with mental health face. Their suffering is often invisible to those around them until it reaches a breaking point. The character of Hamna also plays a crucial role in shedding light on the bystander effect. While she is Eamon's closest friend, she remains largely unaware or perhaps willfully ignorant of the extent of Eamon's struggles. Like many people in real life, Hamna does not act maliciously, but her failure to recognize the warning signs contribute to the tragedy that unfolds. This aspect of the story mirrors a common societal issue. Many people who are suffering does not outwardly show it, and even those closest to them may not recognize or acknowledge their pain until it is too late. The film does not place blame solely on only one character or one person, but rather it forces the audience to reflect on the collective responsibility we all have in supporting those who are struggling. Another way The Fractured Mind challenges conventions is by blurring the lines between hero and villain, victim and perpetrator. At the start, Eamon seems like a classic underdog, a quite intelligent girl who is bullied by her cruel classmates. The audience is naturally inclined to sympathize with her, to see her as someone who deserves kindness and justice. But as the plot unfolds, she begins to change. Her intrusive thoughts become more sinister, her anger more consuming. The sympathy the audience feels for her is challenged as she transforms into something far more complex. Is she simply a victim pushed too far, or was this darkness always lurking inside of her? This question is uncomfortable but essential because it reflects the real world complexity of human emotions and actions. Suffering does not always lead to noble outcomes, and pain can sometimes breed harm rather than healing. The diary serves as a powerful symbol throughout the film. It represents more than just a record of thoughts, it embodies the dangerous weight of unspoken emotions. The idea that words have power and the consequences of bottling up pain rather than confronting it. When Eamon writes in a diary, it feels like a release, a way to express the emotions she cannot say out loud. But instead of finding catharsis, she becomes trapped in a self destructive loop. She does not seek help, does not confide in anyone. She keeps everything inside, and as a result, her thoughts begin to control her. This mirrors a real societal issue, the stigma surrounding mental health. If Eamon had been given the right support, if someone had noticed, if she had felt safe enough to express her pain, perhaps things could have turned out differently. But the film does not offer simple answers. Instead, it leaves the audience sitting in discomfort of uncertainty, forcing them to confront the harsh realities of mental illnesses and unchecked emotional turmoil. And then the final revelation, the moment Eamon finds the bloody knife in her drawer, everything shifts. Up until this point, there was still a lingering possibility, however faint, that the diary really did have some supernatural influence, that maybe Eamon wishes were somehow being granted in an eerie, inexplicable way. But with this discovery, that illusion is shattered. The truth is far more terrifying. It was never the diary, it was always her. This realization is a gut punch, not just for Eamon, but for the audience as well. It forces her to confront the horrifying reality of her actions, and in doing so, it forces the audience to question their own perceptions of her. The distant sound of police sirens in the background is more than just an auditory detail. It is the sound of everything catching up to her. By blending psychological horror with the real world themes, The Fractured Mind does not merely follow genre conventions, it reshapes them. It tells a deeply human story about pain, loneliness, and devastating consequences of unspoken thoughts. It does not rely on jump scare or supernatural twists. Instead, it roots its horror in the mind, in the quiet creeping descent into darkness. The true terror in the film is not a ghost, a monster, or an external force. It is Eamon's own mind, unpredictable, fractured, and dangerously real. Ultimately, the film is not just about fear, it is about terrifying things we bury within ourselves, the thoughts we suppress, and the consequences of letting them fester. It forces the audience to sit with the weight of it all, to acknowledge the uncomfortable truth that sometimes the most frightening monsters are the ones that exist within us. Thank you.